Good day everyone. Our topic for today is about construction disputes. Construction industry is a complex and competitive environment in which participants have different views, talents, and levels of knowledge of the construction project process work together. Participants from a variety of backgrounds come together in this complicated atmosphere. Each profession has its own objectives and intends to maximize its own rewards. Conflicts are unavoidable in the construction sector due to differences in perceptions among project participants. If confrontations aren't handled properly, they can soon devolve into disputes. As a result, it is critical to understand the sources of disagreements in order to execute the construction project on time and budget and with the intended quality. It is the biggest thing that prevents a building project from being completely, properly disputed. How do construction disputes transpire? Construction disputes turn as a result of disagreements between the parties involved in a contract. The three primary factors that lead to construction disputes are issues with contracts, behaviors, and contractual problems. Issues with contracts are typical contract forms outline the obligation and risk that each party is willing to accept. Second, behavior, in which such disagreements emerge. Parties may seek to earn as much as they can from one another. Similarly, the parties' perception of the facts underlying the transaction may differ. Third, project uncertainty, the difference in the amount of information needed to start a project and the available information. Why do construction disputes arise? Construction disputes arise because of disagreements between the parties on a contract. Disputes may also arise due to lack of understanding of the conditions of the contract, delays on a contract, failure to administer the contract, unsubstantiated claims being made by the parties involved. So there are things that a contractor can do to avoid a dispute. Reduce the possibility of disputes arising. To reduce the likelihood of a dispute arising, seek to optimize each aspect of the construction process at every stage. There are also other preventive measures to consider. Carefully read and understand the contract, negotiate clauses that are potentially problematic, be diligent, deal with problems as they arise, do not postpone. Schedules are planned well with no delays. Provide greater information transparency to all parties. Adapt systems that increase predictability of every process and provide greater information transparency to all parties. Also, document any issues and challenges that arise during the execution or daily reports are irreplaceable.
Good day, everyone. So, next is common types of construction disputes. Due to the nature of construction projects, there are various ways in which construction disputes can arise. So, below are some of the common types of construction disputes we have. So, we have change of finish dates, delays, design, goals, quality of materials, and last is difficult projects. So, first is change of finish date. All of us are familiar with the adage that time is money. In modern construction projects, this adage is true. A change in the finish line may lead to increased project costs. Contractors may incur additional fees from idle labor or equipment. Rental charges or equipment may occur even though the equipment is lying idle. Supervisors and workers may also be idle, leading to unrecoverable costs. Therefore, these changes in finishing dates put a lot of pressure on contractors and may even affect their other projects. This will result in a considerable loss in profit. So if most of ang date sa project, ang finish date sa project is kanang daghang kay mapuno nga cost. So kanang kuan sa mga manpower nga unta adto na sa next nga project. So next is delays. When delays occur, the party responsible should issue a notice in writing, letter, or electronic mail. The written notices clarify and pass on complete information to all the involved project stakeholders. Delays brings about disputes as to who should bear the responsibility for them. Most construction contracts deal with delays by extending the time of completion. The owner can keep the rights to recover the damages from the delays from the contractor. FIDIC, or International Federation of Consulting Engineers, conditions of contract states that a contractor is supposed to give notices on circumstances that may lead to delays beforehand, or else they may lose the rights for time extension or compensation. So next is design. Mistakes in design can also do additional costs, which become the cost of delays. There is no planning sequence followed for the release of design information, which impacts construction. Design teams may also abrogate their responsibility, leaving the contractor in harm's way to solve design problems independently. In so doing, the contractor unknowingly assumes the risk of impending design failures. So if fail sa design nga mo'y masuon sa project is makakause delay and makakause sad siya og another sa cost nga wag tang mapun-an na sa mga cost. The next is goals. Subcontracted firms engaged in large construction contracts may employ a lot of personnel. Each of these firms may have its own goals and commitment that are not compatible with the goals of other key players in the project. As expected, this may lead to disputes. So, next is quality of materials. Sometimes disputes may come up as a result of the quality of materials used. Specification may vary on the conflicts, and each party may have different views on whether the quality is accordance to contract specification. The parties may have different opinions as to whether the quality and craft are sufficient. This can lead to additional contract costs that may lead to many costly disputes if left unresolved. So dapat ang quality sa material kay ang standard jud dili kay katong mga substandard, dili kay kuangan nimo ang materials kay ara ka masuda sa nga another cost na sad nga maabot kay kung sayop ang kuan sa mga materials nga magigamit. So lastly is difficult projects. The project stakeholders may need to carry out proper risk management before a project commences, and more often than that, this is not done. Projects take longer than planned if there is insufficient accounting of possible risk associated with the project complexity. The delays and claims remove the owner's rights to claim or delays or damages. So next is how to resolve a dispute. It is unlikely for a project to run from start to finish without a dispute arising. Unfortunately, most dispute resolution procedures are an afterthought by contractors who focus on scope and price. However, it takes just one bad experience for one to handle dispute resolution more seriously. There are primarily four main methods in resolving contractual construction disputes as discussed below. So, first is negotiation. Usually, negotiation is the first part of dispute resolution. Negotiation is when the parties in dispute try to reach amicable conclusion between themselves before moving further to other means of dispute resolution. It is the easiest, less expensive, and could yield the most immediate productive results. If it does not deliver results, it at least maps out the actual points of disagreement so that the parties know where they stand. So, mas maayo nga magstorya before ka mo take action. So next is mediation. Mediation is when the parties in dispute involves a neutral third party to help in resolving the dispute. Mediation is not legally binding the method of conflict resolution but is one of the most effective ways to get out of the situation before it worsens. worsens, the parties attempt to reach a just resolution outside the court before moving to other parties. So ang mediation is naay usa ka tawo nga ma-involve, but kanang dili siya makapaworsen, but mo assist siya kung unsa inyong buhaton para dili mo grabe ang disputes. So next is arbitration. Arbitration is the method contractors and lawyers prefer when it comes to dispute resolution. Most contractors list it as a way of address disputes in contractual terms. If the parties opt for arbitration, they must choose neutral party with relevant experience to bring them to an amicable solution. Unlike in mediation, the arbitrator gives the final verdict to the conflict, whereas mediation, the mediator only assists the parties to conclude. The cost of arbitration are significantly higher and the decisions are legally binding in some jurisdictions. So, ang iyang buhaton is mo conclude sa tanan kung unsa ang angay buhaton, unlike sa kanang katong mediation nga mo assist siya mo stand kung unsay angay buhaton sa duha ka party. So next is litigation. Litigation involves trials that are enforceable and legally binding. It is the most thorough, complex, and costly dispute resolution process. It is also very slow, so most parties opt for other dispute resolution processes instead. Next is preventing disputes. So, disputes in construction are prevalent, and preventing a conflict is better than solving one in the first place. Sometimes parties end up aborting entire projects if they cannot successfully deliberate on disputes. Below are some of the ways of preventing conflicts. So, clear payment terms, communication, keep records, and follow the contract. So, clear payment terms. Most construction projects work based on interim payment cycles. A contract should have agreed on dates where payment application should be made. Related payment notices is issued and then actual payment release. The system of predetermined payment dates and terms reduces the likelihood of dispute. So, dapat nga kung sa inyong nasabutan nga payment mao jud to, dili na mag-usab-usab, wala na puno or wala na kuha, dapat mao na gid to. So next is communication. Disputes also arise when the parties fail to maintain communication. Most developers and contractors communicate when the project commences and expect everything to run smoothly according to plan. This is often not the case, and parties should share at various stages of the project to address any challenges that pop up during the construction process. So communication is the key jud ay kanang we need to communicate kanang as kita contractors to our kanang atong ang kuan sa kanang project, ang tag-iya sa project kay kanang kung unsa ang sayop or unsay kanang mga kinahanglanon nga usbon or nay mga kanang conflict ani nga project, we need to kanang settle down with them para dili maabot sa dispute. So next is keep records. Having a normal gentleman's agreement is the worst mistake you can make in construction. Always ensure that you put everything in writing. Records should include notices, letters, emails, photos, and diaries. Construction is an expensive affair and you risk losing a lot of money if you do not put everything in writing. Record keeping removes any doubts about agreements made by the parties. So kanang construction records from other group is kanang needed siya kay kanang para tanan mga nahitabo sa site sa kanang katong giagrihan sa kanang both parties is kanang mo kanang kuan dito throughout sa project mo isundon. So ang pag-record ana niya sa everyday nga gi-record nga nahitabo is kanang aduna tan-aw after sa project kung nagtugma ba jud ang inyong nasabutan ug sa project nga inyong gibuhat. So follow the contract. The involved Parties should ensure that they understand the contract in place with all the clauses, terms, and amendments. Most projects adapt a standard building contract and made changes to transfer the risks. These changes need to be negotiated and understood. Once both parties understand the contract, they should follow all the contract provision uninterruptedly throughout the project's life cycle. So kung unsay nasabutan, kung unsay nasa kontrata, mao jud i-follow ninyo, dili kay magbuot-buot ang usa or ang usa, dili kay. So panas ragud atong communication. So, communication is the key jud. So, kung nagani mo ganahan usbon, dapat sultian ninyo ang usa ka party para walay conflict or walay dispute nga mahitabo. So summary, a project's success depends on how fast you can identify critical problems and communicate to the appropriate parties to solve them. Implementation of construction contracts helps achieve success and prevents the never-ending disputes likely to drown your project success. So, marotot na nan. Thank you everyone and God bless.